No one's talking about bringing down Medicaid and taking out these programs. They're talking about getting the waste and fraud out, which it is obvious. There are 150-year-olds that are getting benefits, 300-year-olds getting benefits.
Let's
not
get
true. The waste and
and
fraud
you have to rely on lies like that to manufacture consent to cut a popular policy.
Piers Morgan had a panel of some MAGA supporters, a Never Trump Republican, and Briahna Joy Gray, who was the press secretary for the first Bernie Sanders campaign, and she completely lays a smackdown all throughout these clips because Dave Rubin is either an idiot or a willful liar because he makes points that only exist if you just buy hook, line, and sinker anything the government tells you. And not just the government, but Elon Musk tweets. So let's watch these clips and we'll talk throughout.
So you two need to start acting like mature adults, okay? So let's begin with Marco.
Polo.
No, Elon. I'm trying to talk to Marco.
Polo. What is that? What's this?
Elon, you gotta listen to me, okay? Marco is a very important part of the team, and we all need to...
Phase 1 of my plan is complete. Ingratiate yourself to the president and take over the media. But was taking this job a bad idea? A lot of people seem to really hate me. My Tesla stock is crashing and my personal net worth just dropped by $100 billion.
It was quite a funny sketch, I have to say, Dave. But is there a point there that Elon Musk might be getting some buyer's remorse about getting his way into the real seat of power in America, but actually now copping a lot of flack? Do you think he might be beginning to regret it?
I don't think so. I'll give them credit. The Austin Powers callback was kind of good, but look, the rest. Yes, is he a little autistic and like this is the day of autists now? Yeah, he is. Okay, part of it. That's also part of his success, actually. As for buyer's remorse, I don't think so at all. I mean, I just watched. We played it on my show this morning. I mean, just over the last couple of days, you know, he walks into the meeting with the entire cabinet saying that this is, his words, he said, literally the greatest cabinet in American history. You know, this idea that successful people being part of the government is somehow bad, that people who build things, who send rockets to Mars and who build incredible things like, I don't know, the Amazon marketplace that allows you to get things at your house 3 hours later, that these people are all inherently evil. Someone like David Sachs, who's worth hundreds of millions of dollars, who's now heading up AI and crypto. These people are doing these jobs for either no money or virtually no money in their worlds because they care about America. Bobby Kennedy has said repeatedly that he has never seen a time in his life where more good, qualified people who do not need the headache of this. You think Elon wants the headache of having the Soros-funded protesters at his Tesla places like I saw this weekend in Miami? He doesn't want that, but I don't think he has any buyer's remorse. I think he is a deeply proud American who understands how great this country is, and it was heading off the cliff. So yeah, are there going to be pain points not only for the country but for him personally? Has it attacked his reputation? Is he going to not get invited to some of the elite parties? Yeah, but is he going to probably save the country in the meantime? I think so.
Joe Walsh, we've seen some. Well, hang on, Brianna. I'm just going to go to Joe. We've seen some tensions being reported. New York Times, I think, reported about Marco Rubio. Excuse me. Some tension there with Elon Musk and a big argument between them in the cabinet and so on. Look, you're going to get arguments between smart people in powerful positions. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I've followed politics long enough. But you've also got all of them in the cabinet are there because Donald Trump got elected, and they are therefore effectively elected officials in that sense. Elon is the outlier. He's the one that's just there as a kind of unofficial advisor to the president, but apparently with almost unlimited powers. Is that sustainable, or are you going to see a lot more tension creeping in between the official cabinet members and Elon?
Well, I don't know, Piers, how sustainable it is. I worry that it's not constitutional. And look, you're right. The cabinet members in Trump are going to reflect much more so than Elon, where the voters are. And a lot of what Elon and Doge have been doing, and nobody on this panel knows what Elon and Doge have been doing. Pierce, you don't, I don't. that's a problem. I say that
we've
as
seen. Well, hang on.
What do you mean? They tweet about it every day.
Hang on, we've seen a lot of stuff they're doing. Actually, they've been actually remarkably transparent. We've seen, for example, on USAID, we saw some alarming, ridiculous wastes of money. So we are seeing what they're doing.
Pierce, we don't know. We have no accurate accounting of what's been cut. Emily, I think, talked about waste and fraud. There's been no DOJ reporting on waste and fraud that's been cut. There's a reason why, and there over 100 lawsuits have been filed. Maybe I'm biased. I say this as a former member of Congress. Our founders made Congress the most powerful branch for a reason, because they feared a king. When I was a congressman, I would yell every time Obama picked up his pen and his phone and enacted an executive order. We're a million miles beyond that now. And a lot of this stuff is just fundamentally not constitutional.
Whether you disagree with him or not, Joe Walsh is right. And not just right, but consistent. If you're against the opposition party doing a bunch of executive orders, then you should also be against when your party does a bunch of executive orders, because it's an attempt to bypass Congress. Sometimes that's necessary, but at this point, it's now ruling by decree. And I don't know if you know this, but Americans fought a war to make sure that we're not ruled by kings. But back to what Dave Rubin was talking about, they don't want or need any evidence to back up their claims. Elon tweeting about it is just enough. It's basically the same thing, as if he can't just lie, because there isn't no transparency. And anytime he does get any pushback, he says, well, we're not going to be right all the time.
So, and I should say, we will make mistakes. We won't be perfect. But when we make a mistake, we'll fix it very quickly. So, for example, with USAID, one of the things we accidentally canceled very briefly was Ebola prevention. I think we all want Ebola prevention. So we restored the Ebola prevention immediately, and there was no interruption.
Yeah, but by the time people realized you were lying, it's been weeks past while people were parroting what he was saying. That's the danger of it all. People just believing the government, or people that are in the government with no official role, just based off what they tweet. And good thing Elon is no longer in the government, even though his falling out with Trump is really a big distraction, because he's tied in with Peter Thiel and Palantir, who now have full access to all of our data and are putting us all into a digital database for profit. All of which is being made possible because Doge was created by Elon Musk. And that was made possible because Elon Musk spent $250 million to get Trump elected. So all of the Twitter stuff back and forth is all nonsense because they are all on the same team. It's just a lie when Piers and Dave talk about billionaires want all of our data and control over all of us, not for their own profit. What would a billionaire need more money for? You think they have a limit? Cancer doesn't need a reason. It's just growth for the sake of growth. If they actually wanted to help people, they could do that without controlling everyone's life and data and movements.
That should still matter.
But what about,
But what does he cut?
All right, but let me ask you this.
You're not happy has been cut.
Just to put it in context, hang on,
Dave,
Joe, I wanted to just, Marco Rubio tweeted today about the USAID purge being complete. After a 6-week review, we are officially cancelling 83% of the programs at USAID. The 5,200 contracts that are now cancelled spent tens of billions of dollars in ways that did not serve and in some ways even harmed, he said, the core national interests of the United States. In consultation with Congress, we intend for the remaining 18% of programs we are keeping, approximately 1,000, to now be administered more effectively under the State Department. Now, there'll be a lot of Americans who say, good. If you've uncovered a load of tens of billions of dollars being squandered on stupid programs and you're going to cull them and the American taxpayer is the beneficiary, what's the bad news?
Two quick things, Pierce. Again, USAID, most Americans have no freaking clue what it is. USAID is an independent agency. There's a reason why every cut that's been made supposedly to USAID has been taken to court, because Trump and Musk do not have the authority to just get rid of that agency. They don't. It's a separate agency made separate by an act of Congress. Same thing with the Department of Education. I'm not a fan of the Federal Department of Education, but Trump and Musk can't get rid of it, Pierce. Only Congress can. the Constitution's still got to
Piers,
matter.
can I interject?
Yeah, you
when he's
can,
done?
Emily, yeah.
So I want to also point out, of course, Congress has the highest power. And when they allowed for USAID to spend our tax-paying dollars to go to allocated groups, I'm sure what they didn't expect was millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars going to transgender choirs and DEI in Ireland and a lot of the waste that Elon Musk is now cutting out. So given that we have the clear proof that our money that Congress passed is going to things that we didn't approve of it going to, yes, by all means, you have the authority to undo it. And here's another thing I want to bring up. When I went to the Oval Office and Secretary Rubio was speaking to, the group of influencers who came, he was speaking about Doge and Elon Musk. Why? Because we wanted to know exactly what their agenda is. We wanted the transparency, and they gave it to us. He pointed out something that blew my mind, where he said he and Elon spoke that morning, and Secretary Rubio asked Elon, why did you target USAID first, and what's next, in which he said Social Security is next. He targeted USAID because when Elon said, I want to eliminate waste and fraud, they were the loudest opposition. And Elon thought to himself, well, why would you be opposed to saving taxpayer dollars? That's when he did his deep dive into USAID to see our money is going to garbage. And now you're questioning, well, what is Elon doing? He's going to go group by group, piece by piece, and start tackling all the waste and fraud. So the fact that you haven't seen the full scope of it yet is only because we're just getting started with this.
Right, and Briahna, I would say that what is clear is that the American people on this issue, on Doge, and the waste that's being exposed, they are in a big majority right behind the administration. So there are other polls that show them not as confident about other things, but on Doge, that seems to be a very popular thing.
I'm really glad my co-panelist pointed out that Social Security is next. And polls show that Republican voters also are overwhelmingly opposed to cuts to Social Security. The majority of Americans rely on Social Security to keep their elderly parents and relatives and loved ones from living on the street. And not to mention Medicaid, Medicare. These are some of the most popular policies in America that even Trump understands it's bad politics to put them on the chopping block. And that's why he ran away from those policies in the Bartolomeo Fox News interview just this week. But the reality is that that's exactly what he's going for. And the numbers that have been articulated by the Trump administration and Elon Musk for what he anticipates in terms of budget cuts cannot happen without significant cuts to programs exactly like Social Security. And this is why the earlier point that was made about millionaires and billionaires. I'm sorry, if I could just finish this point without interruption. This is why the earlier point about millionaires and billionaires who are running this government and why it is that we should be concerned about it is so germane. There was a 2014 Princeton study that showed that there is no relationship between what Americans want, what voters articulate in polls, and what actually gets passed in Congress, whether it's a Democratic Congress or a Republican Congress. And the reason is because oligarchs, billionaires have captured our government through lobbyists. There was a question asked on Fox News recently, why is Northern Virginia the most affluent place in America? And the implication was that it was because of government spending and government programs, when the reality is it's because that's where the lobbyists live. And that's where all of our government money is going. The instinct to want to look at where our tax dollars are being misdirected is the right one. But should we be skeptical of the fact that the literal richest person in the world and the number 2 and the number 3 and the number 4 are standing there telling you that the problem is the programs that are keeping your elderly loved ones sustained and not the military spending? The Pentagon budget is 3 times the budget of the Department of Education. Our military spending is more than the next 10 military spending of the next 10 countries beneath us combined. Elon Musk is a defense contractor himself, and that is why you're not going to see him talking about cuts to people like him who personally have hundreds of millions of dollars worth of wealth that they've gotten through government contracts. No, they want to throw your grandmother out of the hospital and your family members onto the street.
Okay, Dave, they want to throw your family into the street.
It's so boring and it's so thin. Yes, Elon's doing all of this to make more money. He was like, yes, I really need another yacht. I don't even know that he has a yacht. He doesn't.
Money and power. It's not just money, but money, power, and control. It's not just money. Like Briahna just said, Elon Musk is a defense contractor. He didn't make his money from selling products. He made his money from government contracts and then selling stocks because his companies had government contracts. Dave Rubin called it boring that the richest people in the world want to make sure that there's more homeless people because billionaires create disaster to profit off of.
You're the guy who walks
wealth
around in
doubled
old
since the
ratty
election.
T-shirts. That's number one. Number two, let's try it this way. I would say, Briahna, in some sense, you're kind of directionally right in some of this stuff, but let's try it this way. First, as Emily pointed out, no one's talking about bringing down Medicaid and taking out these programs. They're talking about getting the waste and fraud out, which it is obvious. There are 150-year-olds that are getting benefits, 300-year-olds getting benefits.
That's
let's
not
get
true.
the waste and fraud
you
out.
have to rely on lies like that to manufacture consent to cut a popular policy.
Briahna is a great communicator because she's clearly sticking to the facts of what they're talking about. The richest of people are only cutting things for people who need help. They're not cutting programs or subsidies for themselves or other big corporations or our military that's larger than the 10 other countries beneath us, because they make money off of that and they keep control and leverage over everyone else. It's not just money, it's money, power, and control. But who do you agree with here? Let me know in the comment section. And if you made it this far into the video, you might as well like and subscribe because you obviously like it here. Peace.